Welcome to our very first deep dive for this pilot episode of Couple of Lawyers, Arguments in Thought. CLA for short, again, CLA, because that's also short for the Common Law Admission Test in India. And for our first deep dive, we are going to unpack something pretty fundamental to the Indian legal system, the Advocates Act of 1961. This is the law that sets the ground rules for the entire legal profession, like from who can practice law to how they should conduct themselves.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how this act, it was drafted decades ago, is really trying to keep pace with this whirlwind of changes that's happening in the legal world today. I mean, just think about it. Technology is evolving at like lightning speed. Globalization is connecting legal systems worldwide, and even lawyers themselves are exploring all sorts of new career paths.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Why is this act considered so essential? Like, what makes it the backbone of the Indian legal system?
Well, before 1961, India's legal landscape was a bit like a patchwork quilt. Each state had its own set of rules for lawyers, and you can imagine that created a lot of inconsistencies and confusion. The Advocates Act came in to try to establish a unified system for the entire country.
So it created like a national standard for legal practice.
Exactly. And it did that by creating what is known as the Bar Council of India, or BCI. You can think of the BCI as like the governing body for the entire legal profession in India. They set standards for legal education, they define the ethical codes of conduct for lawyers, and they even handle disciplinary actions when those codes are violated.
So the BCI has immense power in shaping the legal landscape. Tell me a little bit more about how they wield that influence.
One of the most significant powers that the BCI has is its ability to grant and advocate the exclusive right to practice law in courts. So this means that in order to represent clients in a court of law in India, you have to be enrolled with the BCI.
That makes sense. It kind of ensures that only qualified individuals are providing legal representation, like a quality guarantee for legal services. But you mentioned technology earlier. How is this act dealing with the rise of things like AI and legal tech platforms?
That's a key challenge. I mean, you have to remember that the Advocates Act was written in a pre-digital era, and now it's really grappling with how to regulate all of these new technologies that are fundamentally changing how law is practiced.
So it sounds like the law is struggling to keep up with the pace of technology. How can this law, the Advocates Act, be updated to actually address these challenges effectively?
Well, that's a very complex question. I mean, there's no easy answers. For example, AI is now being used for legal research and even for drafting documents, but the Act doesn't really specifically address this at all.
And it's not just technology, right? We're seeing lawyers now branching out into all sorts of new roles, exploring careers way beyond that traditional courtroom setting.
Absolutely. You have globalization, which means that lawyers now need to understand international laws and practices, and a lot of lawyers are choosing to specialize in areas like policy academia, or even moving into non-legal fields altogether.
It seems like the very definition of a legal career is changing. How is the Advocates Act responding to this shift?
That's another area where the Act faces a real challenge. It was designed with a very specific type of legal practice in mind, primarily litigation or advising clients in court. But now lawyers are taking on all sorts of roles that were just unimaginable when the Act was drafted.
So is the Act equipped to support these diverse career choices?
That's a question that's generating a lot of discussion and debate within the legal community, and it really leads us to another kind of hot button issue, which is how the Act handles things like lawyer advertising and solicitation, especially in the age of social media. Traditionally, lawyers in India, they've been prohibited from advertising their services or soliciting clients directly.
Yeah, you don't see billboards or TV commercials for lawyers here like you might in some other countries. So what's the rationale behind that?
Well, the idea is to try to uphold the dignity of the profession and to make sure that clients are choosing lawyers based on their merit, not just because of, flashy marketing tactics, but in today's digital age where social media has become, such a primary way for professionals to connect with potential clients, this restriction really poses quite a dilemma.
That raises a really interesting point about, India's approach to legal ethics in this digital age. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a tricky area. I mean, what happens if a lawyer creates like a YouTube video explaining a legal concept or shares just general legal tips on their Instagram? Is that considered educational content or is that a form of advertising?
I see how that could be a really tough call, especially for lawyers who are trying to, build their online presence and engage with a wider audience.
Exactly. And the lack of clear guidelines from the BCI on this whole issue is only adding to the confusion. Some people argue that sharing informative content online should be permitted, as long as it's done ethically and it doesn't involve any direct solicitation. But others are worried that even these seemingly innocuous online activities could blur the lines between providing information and actually promoting services.
So where does that leave lawyers who are trying to navigate this gray area?
Honestly, in a state of uncertainty. I mean, it's a debate that's still unfolding, and it'll be very interesting to see how the BCI ultimately decides to address this issue of online conduct for lawyers.
It sounds like the law needs to really catch up with the realities of how people are using technology to access information and services, including legal services.
Speaking of realities, you mentioned earlier that lawyer burnout is a growing concern. What do you think is driving this trend? Well, the legal profession has always been known for its demanding hours and its high-pressure environment. The nature of the work itself, dealing with complex legal issues, representing clients in often adversarial settings, it can really take a toll.
It's not exactly a secret that being a lawyer can be incredibly stressful.
It's true. And that stress can lead to burnout, which can manifest in a variety of ways. Emotional exhaustion, cynicism, even a reduced sense of personal accomplishment.
So what can be done to address this?
Well, a lot of experts believe that legal education itself needs to change to better prepare aspiring lawyers for the emotional and psychological demands of the profession.
This is not just about learning the law, but about learning how to actually be a lawyer in a sustainable way.
Exactly. Law schools could incorporate courses on stress management, mindfulness, even basic business skills to help graduates develop a more holistic and sustainable approach to their legal careers.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You mentioned business skills. Are those becoming increasingly important for lawyers, even those in kind of traditional practice areas?
Absolutely. I mean, the legal landscape is changing so rapidly. Globalization, technology, the rise of these alternative legal service providers, they're all creating new challenges and new opportunities for lawyers. To thrive in this kind of environment, lawyers need to be more than just legal experts. They need to be savvy business professionals as well.
So it's not enough to just know the law. You need to know how to market your services, how to manage your practice effectively, and adapt to the changing needs of clients.
Precisely. And that's actually where the Advocates Act could potentially play a role in supporting these evolving skills and career paths.
How so?
Well, some are suggesting that the act could be amended to formally recognize and regulate these new categories of legal professionals, like legal technologists or legal process outsourcers.
It's almost like we're seeing a diversification of the legal profession itself.
Exactly. And by acknowledging these new roles and actually providing some kind of regulatory framework, the act could help ensure that these professionals are also held to high ethical and professional standards, just like traditional lawyers.
That sounds like a positive step towards modernizing the legal profession. What about the disciplinary process for lawyers? Is that an area that needs attention as well?
It's definitely an area where there have been calls for reform. Currently, there are some concerns about the efficiency and the transparency of the disciplinary process for lawyers who are accused of misconduct.
So it's about making sure that the system for holding lawyers accountable is both fair and effective.
Exactly. Some suggest that the process could be streamlined, maybe by introducing clearer timelines or even some alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Others argue that the bar councils need greater resources and authority to effectively investigate and adjudicate these complaints.
It seems like a delicate balance, protecting the public from unethical lawyers, while also ensuring due process for those who are accused of misconduct.
It is, and finding that balance is really essential for maintaining public trust in the legal profession.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the challenges of technology and lawyer burnout to the need for a more robust and adaptable disciplinary process. It's clear that the Advocates Act is facing some really big questions about its role in shaping the future of the legal profession.
Yeah, it really feels like we're at this pivotal moment, where the legal profession is evolving so rapidly and the Advocates Act is kind of trying to keep up.
I know it's a fascinating time to be involved in the legal world for sure. We're really seeing this convergence of long-standing traditions with like all this cutting-edge technology and these shifting societal expectations.
It's almost like we're witnessing a redefinition of what it means to be a lawyer in the 21st century.
Exactly. And, the Advocates Act, despite being, over 6 decades old, still has the potential to be a catalyst for positive change. It can provide a framework for ethical and responsible innovation within the profession.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about envisioning what that ideal legal profession could actually look like and using the act as a tool to help get us there. Precisely. It's about creating a legal system that's accessible, efficient, and really responsive to the needs of a diverse society.
If you had to choose just one What stands out to you as the most crucial area where the Advocates Act really needs to adapt?
If I had to pick one, I'd probably say legal education. The way that we train lawyers, it really needs to reflect the realities of modern practice. We need to equip these new lawyers not only with legal knowledge, but also with all the skills that they need to navigate the complexities of technology, globalization, and the changing demands of their clients.
So we need to prepare them for a legal landscape that's in constant flux.
Exactly. That means going beyond just rote memorization of legal principles
Yeah.
and really focusing on critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability.
It's not just about what they know,
Mhm.
but how they think and how they can actually apply that knowledge in a world that's constantly changing.
Precisely. And it's also about, fostering a greater awareness of the ethical and social implications of their work. Lawyers have a huge responsibility to uphold the rule of law and to ensure that the legal system really serves the interests of justice.
We've talked a lot about the challenges facing the Advocates Act, but what about its strengths? What aspects of the Act have really stood the test of time and continue to be relevant even today?
Well, I think one of the Act's enduring strengths is its real focus on professional ethics and conduct. The BCI's role in setting and enforcing these standards, it's been absolutely crucial in maintaining the integrity of the legal profession.
So even though the specific challenges may have changed over time, those core principles of professionalism and ethical conduct, they remain as important as ever.
Absolutely, and I think that's really a testament to the Act's foresight in recognizing that a strong legal profession is built on a foundation of trust and ethical behavior.
It's interesting to think about how the Advocates Act, in a way, reflects the evolution of Indian society itself. As society changes, so too must the legal profession and the laws that govern it.
That's a great point. The Act isn't a static document, it's a living instrument that really needs to adapt to the changing needs and values of the society it serves.
It's like a conversation that's been going on for over 60 years about how law can best serve the needs of a nation.
And that conversation is definitely more important now than ever before. As we navigate all these complexities of the 21st century, the Advocates Act really does have the potential to play a vital role in shaping a legal profession that's both innovative and ethical, responsive to the needs of clients, and committed to that pursuit of justice.
Well, this has been an incredibly enlightening deep dive into the Advocates Act. I feel like we only just scratched the surface of this complex and fascinating topic.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
And to all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the heart of the Indian legal profession. We hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the Advocates Act, its challenges, and really its potential for shaping the future of law in India.
And remember, the Advocates Act is more than just a set of rules. It's really a reflection of our society's commitment to justice and the rule of law. And as our society continues to evolve, so too will the Act and the legal profession that it governs.
Until next time, keep those legal minds engaged.